Well, good morning, everyone. It is week 2 of our marriage season. Marriage season. Week 2, I wish. Of our marriage series. Last week was so much fun, and we are so excited to share with you this week. Last week, I shared with you a little bit about how our first date, we went to Johnny's grandpa's funeral, and I don't suggest that for anybody who is looking for their first date. But since that was technically like a group date, family date, I thought we would share Johnny's our actual first date. And Johnny had zero money. So we'll just start there, which is not a bad thing. But his truck didn't have AC or anything. And so when he picked me up, girls, you want to look good on your first date, right? You put a lot of work into your hair and your makeup, and it's the middle of summer. You don't want to get in a truck without AC and have to have the windows rolled down and ruin the whole look.
Yeah, and trust.
Your mic's not on.
Well, let me talk today.
Yeah, I turned it off.
And trust me, listen, when you're driving in a hot truck and she gets in the car, she looks good, like, she's put in the time, put in the effort, she looks great. And then it's 130 degrees in the middle of summer, and the person you got into the car with, and then you look over, is not the person in the car anymore.
That's
it
rude.
looks like one of those movies where, that stuff's running down the face and everything like that, and you're just like driving, and everything. Like, that was the first date.
You're hilarious. So
I mean, it was true, though. I didn't have AC, and it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she would come out, her hair big and everything, and then we would get to the place, and, we're sweating, and we stink, and it was
And you
nice.
thought it would be a good idea to have a picnic in the middle of July out by the lake, which was very thoughtful. We picked up McAllister's sandwiches and went out to the lake.
Because I was broke.
And had a picnic.
Couldn't take her to a restaurant. She gets to order whatever she wants at a restaurant at McAllister's. I mean, at least I know she's limited to a sandwich.
You turned it really good
not
and
like
made it romantic.
I'll take the steak. Can't afford the steak. Can I wash dishes?
I would have definitely ordered the steak.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
I've been in trouble.
So we went and
they wouldn't have let us in because we were sweating, makeup running, everything. They would be like, I don't know what's going on.
I begged for you to let us take my car.
I know.
And he was too stubborn. I should have known then how stubborn you were really going to be.
Yeah, no, let's think about this. Okay, I am driving an old truck. It had 170,000 miles on it. It really did. Big Ford, nice truck with no AC. She grew up, her 16th birthday, her car was a Lexus. Yeah. She's not used to not having air conditioner in a car, I can guarantee you that. It was eye-opening for her. She was like, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah. I was so confused on why when we get gas, you would only put in $5 at a time. It's like, this is the weirdest way of getting gas.
I know. It's like, you're just going to have to fill up later. I'm like,
fill it up.
I know, but I don't have more money than that. I was just like, I'm just being frugal, saving.
Yes. No, you are not a saver. Okay, we're getting off track here. So anyways, we had this great first date, and Johnny tried to be all serious, and he was going into ministry, and so he thought it was a great idea to say, we're not going to kiss until we're married, all that romantic stuff.
But then
you're going to turn this around.
I know.
I know what you're going to do.
I've been working out. The pecs were popping. The gun show was out.
You had more hair. It was flowing in the wind. It doesn't
now
do that.
I dread wind because I'm like, it's blowing away. It's not flowing. It's there goes more and more pieces. It's terrible. I bent over the other day in a sermon, and Cody said when I bent over, he goes, there was an audible gasp.
The light.
People saw the top of my head, and it was such
The light
thin
hit
air.
just right.
So now, I don't bend over like this anymore. Now I'm bending over like this.
He hides it really well. I feel like we talk about this every week.
We do. It hurts my feelings.
Anyways.
Talked about this.
All that to say, we didn't wait till we were married, and we kissed
To
that
kiss.
night. I know.
Not for the other.
No,
Yes,
no,
no,
to
we
kiss.
waited.
Yes.
Gosh, what are you telling them?
You wanted to wait to kiss
Private
until
stuff.
we were married.
Just a kiss, people.
Yes.
Good
You should
grief.
still wait for that.
Yes.
But
We did.
But Johnny was apparently irresistible. So
Apparently.
you say right here, say Johnny's irresistible. Anyways.
Okay.
So that was our first date. And all that to say, you guys know the years of dating, we dated for a year, are about the best dates you're going to get. He also, no, like creativity-wise and effort-wise, Johnny also, took a page from the notebook and thought it was going to be super sweet to write this book about our relationship and how much, our whole story. And the book, on the last page when he gave it, did you give it to us on our wedding day? I can't remember, right before we got married. And it was like, I can't wait to fill these pages with the rest of our marriage. And it's literally been empty since for 17 years. So
I got time.
Yeah.
I got some time left.
So if our kids get to see the story of our first couple of years, after that, they got no clue what happens. So it's not quite like the Notebook, but but anyway.
Not yet. Hey, listen, the theme verse that we have for this series is in Song of Solomon 3, and it's in verse 4, and it says this: I have found the one that my heart longs for. I've found the one that my soul longs for. Right before that, in the verses, right before that, it says that I was searching and searching for the one that I love. And so this series, what we want to do is we just want to talk about you and your relationship. And so it doesn't matter, listen, if you are married, it doesn't matter if you're thinking about getting married, if you're dating, it doesn't matter if you're single, it doesn't matter if you're a widow. I believe God's word today wants to speak into your heart and help you in whatever situation you're in. And that's the incredible thing about the Word of God, is that even though when we're going to open our Bibles here to Luke chapter 8, it's not talking about marriage. But yet we see so many different principles in this story that we're able to use in order to make our marriage and our life and our relationship better than what it was. So if you have your Bibles, open up to Luke chapter 8, and we're going to start in verse 40. And once I read this, you're going to hear this, and you're going to be like, how in the world are we hearing this story and talking about marriage? Just listen, it's incredible. Verse 40 of chapter 8 of Luke. On the other side of the lake, the crowds welcomed Jesus because they had been waiting on him. Then a man named Jairus, a leader of the local synagogue, came up and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him, please come to my home with me. He said his daughter, who was only 12 years old, was dying. And Jesus went with him, and he was surrounded by a large crowd. Here's the thing that I think is interesting right here. The situation that is going on. Jesus had just gotten off a boat. Jesus is now walking through the city. I've got to stay back here. I got in trouble for the first service because I kept doing this and getting in front of Heather. And so I've got to stay back here this service.
Not because you were blocking me, but because I can't give you your cue to stop talking.
I know.
No.
No. We went over last time, and then my fault. Listen, that's marriage tip number 1. It's my fault. It's my fault. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's me. All the time.
That's recorded, right?
But here's the thing. They get off the boat, and when they get off the boat, there's this massive crowd waiting on Jesus because Jesus had a reputation. Jesus had a following. People understood and knew who Jesus was, so people wanted to come see Jesus. And here's the interesting thing. I think so many times what we do is we walk through the doors, and there's a lot of people, and our thought does this. Does Jesus really care about my situation? Look at what's going on with everybody else. Look at all of their problems. Look at what they're faced with. Look at what they're struggling with. Look at how bad their situation is. And there's all these people pressing in on Jesus, needing his attention, needing Jesus to do what only Jesus can do. And you truly sit back and you wonder, is God listening to me? When I cry out to him, when I say I'm hurting and I need help. And I think that's one of the questions that we struggle with. My marriage is struggling. My relationship is struggling. My future is struggling. Who I want to date. My spouse passed away. I don't know what to do. God, do you even hear me? God, are you even hearing what I have to say?
I think the amazing thing that we see right after you see Jairus come pleading for Jesus to come save his daughter, which is a major thing. We would all sit in here, and if someone walked in and was like, we need prayer for my daughter who is dying, we would absolutely think that that was a huge thing. And so we may have small things, and so we set those aside thinking God cares more about that than he cares about my issue. But I love this story because we see that Jairus' daughter was dying, but at the same time we see in verse 43, a woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding, and she could find no cure. In comparison, those are two totally different things. One was life or death, and one was ultimately just an inconvenience. She missed out on a lot of things. Her bleeding was a major deal back then. She would have had to have been isolated and not go near anybody. She couldn't touch anybody. Anywhere she sat or touched would have been considered unclean, but she wasn't dying. And so in our minds, we are really bad at categorizing our needs, right? And putting, more importance on some needs more than others. But yet we see here that Jesus put these two stories together because they're both important. Jairus' daughter was dying, and that was important to him, and the bleeding issue was important to the woman who had this issue. He cared about both of them equally and loved them equally and wanted to heal both of them equally.
Yeah, listen, here's the incredible thing, is that when this woman showed up, she had already done everything that she could. She had already spent all her money. She had gone to every doctor. She had gone to every specialist. I said it the same way twice. Specialist, not test. Thank you. She had also done every home remedy that she could think of. If she saw something, she tried it because she wanted to get rid of this issue. She wasn't allowed to be around her family, to hug her grandkids, to play with her kids. She couldn't do any of that stuff. She was isolated. She was alone. And she had done everything that she could. See, I think some of you've done everything that you know to do. You've spent all the money that you can possibly spend. You've listened to all the sermons that you can possibly listen to. You've read all the books that you can possibly read. You've gone to every doctor that you can go to. You've gotten every job that you think you need to get so that you can spend more time together. You've started trying to figure out money in different ways that you can do things. You've done everything that you can do. And here's the problem. The problem is still there even though you've done everything. Everything. My marriage is still struggling. Life is still hard. I've done everything. I've tried to change. I've tried to do things different. I've tried to make a change. I've done all this. She had done everything, and I think she came to a place to where she had just figured out this is how life is going to be. This is it. There's no other doctors to go to. There's no other remedies. No other things I can do. This is just my life. And I think some of you're walking through the doors and that's exactly how you feel. You're walking through the doors and you're just saying, this is it. This is life. This is how I'm going to live. This is what I'm going to do. This is what it's going to be like. And there's nothing else I can do.
And maybe you're walking through these doors and you're playing the comparison game of, well, we're not as bad as they are. Their marriage is really struggling and we're just okay. Or maybe you are not even aware that your marriage is struggling. Maybe you're just in this survival mode and you're making it through each and every day as roommates and you're not fighting and things aren't bad, but you're getting along, but it's not great. No matter where you are, we see in this story, like Jesus cares. It's not a comparison game to Jesus. He cares about you, whether you don't know that you're struggling, whether you're struggling a little bit, or maybe you are done. You're done with your marriage. You're done fighting, and it is at a breaking point. All of those situations matter to Jesus, and he wants to heal your marriage and take it to the next level, no matter where you're at. She, the woman with the blood, had lost all hope. She didn't know what to do. Like Johnny said, she was ready just to live with it. Like maybe some of you are with your marriage. Like we're just going to get to the end of our life. And like you've said most of the time, like we didn't kill each other and call that a success. And that's where she was. She was ready to accept that this is just what she was going to have for the rest of her life. But then she hears that Jesus is coming into town, and she had heard all the miracles that Jesus had done, and she remembered those, and hope came back into her life.
And I think that's the interesting thing, because here's the thing. When you walk through the doors, hope changes everything. There's a possibility. There's hope. There's hope that it doesn't have to be this way. There's hope that it can change. There's hope that there's something better. There's hope that we don't just have to live together. There's hope that when I stand over their coffin one day, I'm not standing there just going, at least it wasn't me who put you here. There's hope that we can enjoy each other. There's hope that we can love being around each other. There's hope that when we walk into the room, it's just kind of not like, what are we going to find about now? What's going to be the issue today? There's hope. See, hope is like an anchor. Hope is like dropping an anchor down. And when you drop the anchor down, here's what happens. The storms still happen above. The storm still hit above, but when you have the anchor holds. The anchor doesn't let the ship go. The anchor keeps you there. Here's what hope does for you. Yes, it may be tough. Yes, it may be hard, but there's hope of a greater and a brighter future than where you are right now. See, that's what Jesus wants to offer. And all of a sudden she's sitting there and she hears Jesus is coming to town. I've heard of this Jesus. I've heard of who he is.
The first thing that you need to do in your marriage is recognize where you're at and not play that comparison game. You need to recognize your need for Jesus and the hope that he can offer. The second thing is take a risk. And we talked about this last week, that a good marriage is made up of two good fighters and two good forgivers. And this woman who had the bleeding issue could not go out in public. So to go out and be with the crowds and Jesus would have been completely against what she should have been doing. But yet she knew she had to take that risk and go find Jesus, no matter what anybody else thinks. And so many times I think we walk into church or we walk into our friends and family and we pretend like everything is fine and that we don't have all these issues going on, or we're terrified that they're going to find out about our issues and we're going to be embarrassed by them. But if you truly want to fight for your marriage, to fight for what is going on, you're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to take a risk that people are going to find out. And that's okay, because let me tell you something. Everybody is struggling. Everybody. Nobody has it all together. Nobody's marriage is perfect. And there is hope that you bring to other people when we get to that point of admitting that my marriage is struggling and I need help. And people don't judge you. And if they judge you, then who cares? Jesus loves you and Jesus cares about your marriage, and you're fighting for the two of you, nobody else. You're not fighting for what everybody else thinks. You're not fighting for someone else's marriage. You're fighting for your marriage. And what other people think about that doesn't matter.
And so, of course, she gets the claps again. That's sweet. You know what happened also? So we watched social media and everything this past week. Guess who got all the videos from the message this past week? Yeah, Heather. Of course. Everybody's like, we got to get her up there more often. I think Heather should preach all the time. And I'm like, these hurt my feelings. I'm dealing with some things. But here's the thing. She came up and she reached out, and in verse 44, she touched the hem of Jesus' garment. The thing about this is you have to put yourself in the time where she was. It's not like we are today with COVID. You walk into Target and all of a sudden you just get a little tickle in your throat and everybody's like, did you hear that cough? Somebody's got the vid. Mask up. And it's not like that. It was like that. If she came in and she sat in a chair, listen, that chair was unclean. Nobody else could sit in that chair. If she comes in and she touches somebody, that person is unclean for the rest of the day. Meaning they have to isolate. They have to get away. They can't be around people. This is what she's doing. There's a massive crowd around. And so what she's got to do, she has to take a risk to get through the crowd. And she has to understand who she's about to come up and touch is the Messiah. It's Jesus. And she is about to make Jesus unclean. She's desiring to be healed and to be made clean. But in order to do that, she has to touch somebody in order to be able to do that. And in order to do that, it's going to make them unclean. And here's the interesting thing. She didn't walk up and push her way through the crowd, and it's not like she was shoving people down and I got to get to Jesus. She very quietly, nobody even saw her coming. And so many times you walk through the doors and you're hiding. I don't want anybody to see me. I don't want anybody to know what I'm dealing with. I don't want anybody to know what's inside of me. I don't want anybody to know my struggle. I don't want anybody to know my addiction. I don't want anybody to know my pain and my hurt. I don't want anybody to know the financial problems and struggles that I've found our family and marriage in. I don't want anybody to know that. I don't want anybody to know the struggle and the pain that I have in my mind. I don't want anybody to know all these different issues that I'm struggling with. I don't want anybody to know. So you come through the doors and you hide every single week. And she worked her way through the crowd. And she just reached out. And the Bible says she touched the hem of his garment. She didn't grab him. She didn't shake him. She just barely grazed the hem of his garment. See, here's the interesting thing. One touch from Jesus changes everything. Just one touch. But in order to get there, she had to fight through everything that everybody else was saying. You can't do that. You can't go there. You can't be that person. You can't go to that place. You can't do those things. You can't. She had to fight through all those voices in order to be able to get to where she needed to go, and that was to the feet of Jesus.
In verse 46, after she had touched him, in verse 45, Jesus says, "Who touched me?" Everyone denied it, and Peter said, "The whole crowd is pressing up against you." I mean, that seems like a silly question, right? Everybody is touching you. But Jesus said, "Someone deliberately touched me, for I felt healing power go out from me." And I loved that word deliberate, because so many times we pray these vague prayers, or, we just kind of cover it with like a generality of, God, heal my marriage, God, fix this problem. But we're not specific about it. We're not deliberate about how we go to the feet of Jesus, begging him for what we need. She was desperate. She had to have a touch from Jesus. And we cannot miss out on that because of this vagueness that we a lot of times use in our prayers. And I'll tell you why we do it a lot of times. We talked about this in our Brave Sisterhood group on Wednesday. It's super easy to pray specific prayers for other people because they're not our problems. But it's really hard to pray specific prayers for ourselves, because then we have to face the issues that we are dealing with. And some of you may not even know what those issues are in your marriage, and you may need to sit down and have a conversation with your spouse and figure out what needs healing in your marriage. Or some of you may already know, and you're going to have to face them head on, and you're going to have to take them to Jesus, and you're going to have to confront them yourselves and be deliberate about what you are asking him to heal. That is what she did. That is the difference in everybody who was brushing by Jesus that didn't receive his healing, and her as she deliberately reached out to Jesus, risking it all to receive his healing.
Verse 47 says this: when the woman realized that she could not stay hidden, she began to tremble, and she fell to her knees in front of him. And the whole crowd heard her explain why she touched him. She couldn't hide anymore. Some of you need to realize what you need to do today. The best thing that you can do is stop hiding. Stop hiding the struggles that you're going through. Stop hiding the pain that's inside. Stop hiding the hurt that's inside. Stop hiding. Because you think hiding is good, but here's the problem with hiding. Nothing changes when all you do is hide. Nothing. Nothing is going to be any different if all you do is you sit there and you just hide the whole time. Here's the thing, Jesus will heal what you will expose. Jesus does not heal what you stay hidden. Think about it. When Jesus walked up, what he says is, he says, "Who touched me?" And then all of a sudden she realizes, I've got to share. I've got to tell. I've got to let people know that I was struggling with an issue. I've got to let people know that I pushed through the crowd. I've got to let people know all these people that I just bumped into and touched. I've got to share with them what I've done. Now, not only that, but I've touched Jesus. I've got to share. I've got to tell. See, all through Scripture, what Jesus does is when Jesus came to a man who was paralyzed, laying on his mat, he came to him and Jesus said, "Hey, what do you want me to do for you?" Really? He's paralyzed. Like everybody walks up and knows if Jesus could do anything, what he would want is he would want to be able to walk. Why does Jesus ask that kind of question? Because here's the thing. What Jesus is wanting you to do is Jesus is wanting you to acknowledge the need that you have. Because here's what she's done. She's spent everything that she has on everything else. Some of you you've sought out everything that you can in order to fix your problem. Everything. You've chased down everything, and what Jesus is wanting you to do is to just acknowledge, Jesus, I need you in this area. I need you to touch this area. I need you to fix this problem. I need you to do what only you can do. I need you to be the one that brings the healing, because nothing else could. Nothing else could fix this. Jesus, you are the only hope that I have. You are the only one that's going to fix this situation. And she was trembling. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" And she could not stay hidden anymore. Maybe today, before you leave, what you need to do is you need to stop hiding. Stop hiding the issues. Stop hiding the problems. Stop hiding the struggles. Because what you're hiding, it's really not hidden. Jesus knows. He just wants you to acknowledge that you need him. And he is the only answer that you have.
And not only does it acknowledge that you need him and you get to see when you're specific how he answers your prayers, but it allows others to see that as well. And it gives hope to them. Jesus didn't call her out in that moment to embarrass her. He called her out so that people could see what had just happened. That the people around and the people in the crowd knew her faith and what it took for her to do in that moment to get healing, and that immediately she was healed, which then gave hope to every single person who was in that crowd. If we hold on to what Jesus is doing in our lives, we are missing the opportunity to give hope to other people who are struggling with the same thing. If you were dealing with something, wouldn't you want someone to tell you that they are right there with you? We love when people say, "Oh my word, I know exactly what you're going through," right? Because it gives us hope and we know we're not alone. Jesus wasn't calling her out to embarrass her. He was helping her and the crowd recognize what he had done and to give them all hope.
Verse 48, he looks at her and he says, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Some of you desire that today. God, just give us a touch and just heal this now, immediately. But look at what's going on right there at the beginning. We told you about a dad who had come to Jesus and who had said, "Jesus, my daughter is sick." And Jesus says, "Let's go to your house." And they begin making their way, but then all of a sudden Jesus is stopped by the crowd and stopped by this woman. And while Jesus is speaking to this woman, and the crowd is getting excited and they're rejoicing, a friend comes up to Jairus right here in verse 49. And you can imagine the scene. As they're celebrating this woman, Jesus is saying, woman, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. And everybody's standing around for the first time you can imagine. She's hugging people. She's putting her arms around them and holding them. She's shouting, she's jumping, she's weeping with joy. Because what has been a struggle for so long has changed in her life. She didn't see any hope, but Jesus changed it. And now all of a sudden, while that scene is taking place, all of a sudden Jairus feels this hand on his shoulder. His friend comes up to him and says, Jairus, I don't know how to tell you this, but your daughter's died. Come on, let's go home. Leave Jesus alone. Let's go home. It's too late. Have you ever desired something so bad, but the problem is you watch everybody else get it? Have you ever wanted something so bad? I want my marriage. I want to just be happy. I want just that joy in our marriage. I want to find somebody that will just love me. I want my spouse back. They passed away. They died. I want them back. And you look around the room and you just seem like everybody else is getting what you desire. I miss that hug. I want that love. I want to walk through the house and I want our hearts to just connect and just begin to beat. And I want just that fire and that passion inside again. Like I want that, and I look over there and I see it in other people. I see other people getting what I desire. Jairus, the father, he had fought through the crowd to get to Jesus, to say, Jesus, I need you to come heal my daughter. And this woman gets the healing that Jairus had asked Jesus for. Jesus, I ask you for that. I wanted that. I desire that. I want things to be different, and I'm watching it be different in everybody else's life. Why not mine? Why can't I have what she had? Jesus, if you would have just come to the house, you heal her, my daughter could have been healed. And you continually watch other people. They have what I want. And it's interesting.
In verse 50, it says this, but when Jesus heard what happened, he said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just have faith, and she will be healed. I think so many times we see, like Johnny was saying, we see these people get their healings all around us, or things go like we want them to go for other people, but not ourselves, but also a timeline thing. For the woman with the the woman with the bleeding issue, Jesus just spoke. She just touched him and she was healed instantly. But yet Jairus was waiting. His daughter was at home, and in the waiting, his daughter died. It wasn't instant for him. He had to wait. And then Jesus still didn't heal her instantly. He didn't say, go home and your daughter will be healed. He said, walk with me. So sometimes we don't understand and we get frustrated because what we want to go through doesn't look like what someone else is going through, right? We want the quick healing. We don't necessarily want to walk with Jesus. But we see that with Jairus right here. He says, just walk with me. And they had to walk that whole distance to his house as Jairus is mourning the death of his daughter, not knowing what he's going to walk in or what Jesus is even going to do at that point. He came to Jesus to ask him to heal his sick daughter, not to raise her from the dead. And so what's he going to do now? We don't know if that walk was 5 minutes, an hour, up mountains and over hills and whatever. We have no idea how long it took them. But Jesus just kept saying, walk with me. I'm going to walk with you home. And are you willing to walk with Jesus no matter how long it takes to get to that point?
And so when Jairus got that news, look at what his friend did. Hey, let's leave Jesus alone. Let's go home. Some of you have the wrong voices speaking into your life. I can't tell you the number of people that Heather and I sit down with for marriage counseling and just for counseling in general. And the problem that we see over and over and over is they have the wrong voices speaking into their life, giving them the wrong direction. Jairus' friend puts his arm around him and with good intention says, leave Jesus alone. Jesus can't do anything anymore. It's too far gone. There's no hope anymore. It's done. It's over. Stop trying to fix this problem. Just go home. Be with your wife. Take care of your daughter in the arrangements that need to happen. It's done. And some of you, you hear these words and you hear people saying over and over, you need to protect you. You need to guard you. You need to fight for you. You need to make sure that you're set up for you. If they do that to you, this is how you respond. If they say that to you, this is what you say to come back. If they cut you this deep, you need to go this deep. And the problem is, Jesus doesn't have the same response as everybody else. Jairus is standing there, and you can imagine all the emotions that are going through his mind. As a father, wanting to raise your daughter, 12 years old, not understanding, not fully comprehending why Jesus did it this way. Why does Jairus' heart have to break before healing took place? Jairus had already come to Jesus, but now all of a sudden he's got to fight through this emotion. Jesus could have, before any of this happened, he could have looked at Jairus and he could have said, hey Jairus, here's the thing. In just a minute, there's going to be a woman come up. I'm going to heal her. While I'm healing her, they're going to come and tell you your daughter's dead. She's not. She's just sleeping. Okay, just trust me. We'll go to the house. You'll see. Don't worry about it. Jesus doesn't say any of that. See, and oftentimes what we do is we look at other people's story and we look at other people's situation and we wonder, why did Jesus just heal them that way? Why did Jesus just touch them that way? Why did Jesus, just when she touched Jesus, all of a sudden healing came? But I have to take a journey and I have to begin to walk with Jesus in order for my healing to take place. And nobody knows the backstory. Nobody understands the 12 years that woman had been through, the isolation, the pain, the hurt that she had struggled with for all those years, the desire to just get on the ground and be able to hug and play with her grandkids, and she couldn't do it. Nobody tells that story. All that anybody ever tells is now it's happy. Nobody talks about that pain of the struggle, the journey that she went through. And Jesus looked at Jairus and said, let's go to your house. Let's take a walk. For some of you, what you've got to do today, you want healing, you desire for Jesus to do something. But here's the thing, you've come and you've set the standard for what Jesus is going to do. Jesus, when I walk out of here, I want everything to be okay. When I walk out of here, I want everything to be fine. When I walk out of here, I don't want any more issues, any more problems. When I walk out of here, everything's going to be good, Jesus. And Jesus is saying, hey, if you want it, here's what I need you to do today. I need you to just walk with me. Just walk with me. How far? I don't know. How hard is it going to be? I don't know. What's the journey look like, Jesus? I don't know. How many days is it going to take? I don't know. Just walk with me. Just trust me. Walk with me. And it wasn't like Jesus, when they began the journey back to Jairus' home, Jairus is up here suffering and he's crying and he's hurting. His daughter is gone. And Jesus is back here with the disciples. You know, oh my gosh, did you see that woman as she came through the crowd? Did you see everybody's face? They were all, oh, you know. Jesus wasn't back here and left Jairus alone. Jesus comes up, and I promise you, here's the thing. Jesus will walk with you no matter what you are facing. Jesus will be there no matter what you're facing. And the journey that Jairus was on of pain and hurt, Jesus was right there. The Bible doesn't say what happened on that journey, but here's what I think. I think Jesus is standing next to Jairus, and I think he's just encouraging. Jairus, hey, that woman had suffered for 12 years. She's healed. Jairus, there was a man. He was possessed by a demon. I walked into the city. He was in the temple. And he goes, I healed him. He goes, Jairus, you see that little boy following us? See, the crowd's following them. See that little boy right over there? That boy was paralyzed, Jairus. They brought him to me. He's healed. You see that guy right back there, Jairus? He was blind, but now he can see. Hey, you see that guy over there? He had leprosy. Couldn't be around anybody. He's healed. He's whole. He's in the crowd. He's around people now. Jairus, listen, just walk with me. Trust me. Just walk with me. Trust me. Just walk with me. Trust me. Trust me. Just walk with me. Just walk with me.
And so many times we have to block out the noise of the people around us. If the woman with the bleeding issue and if Jairus had listened to their friends, they wouldn't have been healed. They wouldn't have received that healing. That woman would have never stepped out into the crowd because her friends would have told her, you can't do that. That is against the rules. Do not go near Jesus. Jairus' friend told him, leave him alone. Go back home. Bury your daughter. If they would have listened to those voices of the people around them and not kept their eyes on Jesus, they would have missed out on that healing. And the reason we focus on Jesus is we have to keep our hope in him. And we have to keep the blinders on, and we have to dig into his word, and we have to pray, and we have to spend time with him. John 15:4 says this, remain in me, and I will remain in you. You cannot produce fruit, the fruit that you need to make your marriage work, unless you are attached to the vine, which is Jesus. If you are severed from the vine, you will not grow fruit. Like Johnny said, it's just walking next to him and letting him provide the encouragement, letting him provide the hope, letting him provide the nutrition that we need to produce everything that he's called us to produce. He's not asking you to do it on your own. He's not asking you to try to create this fruit so that you can make your marriage work. The fruit of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. He's going to provide all that for you. All he's asking you to do is walk with him and let him take care of the rest. But no matter how long the journey is, you have to just commit now to walk with him, no matter how long it's going to take.
So verse 51, Jesus wouldn't let anybody go into the house. They arrive at the house, and the Bible says that Jesus wouldn't let anybody go in the house except Peter, James, and John, and the husband and wife. And the house was filled with people who were weeping and wailing and Jesus said, stop weeping. She isn't dead. She's only sleeping. But the crowd laughed at him because they all knew that she was dead. Listen, if you are waiting on everybody else in the crowd to support your decision, you will never get the healing that Jesus wants to give. If you are waiting on everybody else to think the same way that Jesus thinks, you will never get the healing. Jesus walks up to the house. All the friends and family had heard that she had passed away. They were there at the house. They were weeping. They were crying. Because listen, you don't mistake life and death. You don't walk into a room and see somebody whose chest is moving up and down and know they're breathing to somebody whose chest is not moving. You understand what death is. They had walked into the room and that girl was not breathing. And they were speaking into the situation and saying, we see it this way. We see your situation this way. It's dead. There's no hope. There's no life. There's no future. There's nothing you can do. Give up. Be done. And when Jesus says, oh no, I can do what you can't do. I can heal where you can't heal. I can bring life where there is no life. All the people begin to laugh. You have got to fight through what others are going to say in order to listen to what Jesus has to say to you. And so then Jesus took her by the hand and said with a loud voice, my child, get up. And at that moment, life returned to her and she immediately stood up. I want to encourage you today. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're facing. I don't know what life is like for you. But if you will just walk with Jesus, the journey may be hard, but the destination is worth it. I don't know what you're going through, but I know this. If you will just walk with him, if you will just begin to get next to him and just say, God, I'm going with you. I don't know how long, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm walking with you. I know this. The journey may be difficult, but the destination is worth it, because I can promise you, that dad would go back and do everything over again just to get to that moment of daughter, stand up, to see life come back into her body, to see hope come back into their life, to see dreams reborn, to see a future that they didn't think they had come back to life because of Jesus. But if he hadn't taken the journey, if he hadn't walked with him, the healing would not have come. And some of you are wanting the healing, but you're refusing to take the journey. You're refusing to walk with Jesus. Jesus, you want this, then do it now. You want this, but you want to change me? Maybe what Jesus was doing was changing the heart of Jairus before he ever got to the house. I think Jairus knew his daughter was going to live before he ever got home. Because as he was walking with Jesus, Jesus put something inside of him. And he knew, I'm with Jesus. And when I'm with Jesus, I'm good. If you will just walk with Jesus, one touch changes everything. Will you pray with me? Maybe today, as you've come through the doors, you're sitting here and you're saying, my marriage is struggling. Maybe you're saying there's some other areas in your life. It has nothing to do with marriage. But the problem is, you need Jesus. You need a touch from Jesus. You need what only Jesus can do. And so today, I would encourage you, push out the noise, push out the voices, ignore what others are saying, and fight for the future that you want. Fight for what Jesus has for you. Get to the foot of the cross. The best place that people can find you is at the foot of the cross, where your spouse needs to find you, where your future spouse needs to find you, where the people in your life need to find you is at the foot of the cross. Right at the feet of Jesus. And that's where we find the first woman. But then what you need to do is you need to ignore what everybody else says is dead. And there is no hope, there is no life. And you need to start a journey with Jesus today. And you need to begin to walk with him. And you need to begin to say, I don't care what anybody else says. I am listening to the voice of Jesus and Jesus alone. And as people are walking with me behind and they are crying and they are mourning, I'm ignoring those voices and I'm listening to the voice of Jesus and Jesus alone. Because the journey may be hard, but the destination is worth it. Because when Jesus gets there, one touch from him can change anything that you are going through.